The Army National Guard's Marine to Guard program is designed to provide Marines with the opportunity to continue their service. The program's career counselors are all former active duty Marines and will tell you about all the benefits of the Army National Guard available to you.
Even though it's a part-time service, you can get full-time opportunities. There's just so much about the National Guard that goes above and beyond that creates opportunities.
Learn more by reaching out to a Marine to Guard career counselor or visit nationalguard.com/M2G.
What's going on, everyone? This is Staff Sergeant Noto with the United States Army National Guard, back for another edition of the Not Your Average Joe's podcast, Marine Corps edition. I guess we can call it the Marine to Guard, Marine Corps edition.
There we go.
I'm joined by my co-host, Staff Sergeant Greg Johnson, and we have two very special guests for you today. We have Sergeant First Class Joshua Hall, who is a Marine to Guard counselor, and our own, from the great state of Indiana, Staff Sergeant Lee Zalapugas, who is a recruiting and retention non-commissioned officer, a prior service Marine. Gentlemen, thank you so much for you guys coming on, spending some time out of your morning to come let us talk to you about your experiences in the Army National Guard and the Marine Corps. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks for having us.
Perfect. You guys do join us today via Zoom because of hashtag COVID podcasting. This is the social distancing edition. We are six-ish feet or more away from each other because we do want to practice good social distancing here in the United States Army National Guard. Would you agree, Greg?
I agree wholeheartedly. I don't want to be close to you anyway.
You want to just jump right into it?
Yep, let's do it. All right, guys. We know it takes a special person to be a Marine. So why don't you tell us, Staff Sergeant Z, we can start with you. When and how did you make the decision that you wanted to become a United States Marine?
So this dates back all the way to post high school. I actually didn't have any interest in the military whatsoever while I was in high school. I was actually one of those kids that, didn't really like the phone calls that I got. I was scouted at my lacrosse games and stuff like that. I was always a very active person, but didn't have any interest in the military. So graduated high school, went to college for a little bit. That was definitely not my thing. And while I was in school or college, I worked with a guy who had just gotten out of the Marine Corps. And he was a tanker out in Camp Pendleton. He was in the initial push in Iraq back in 2003, 4, and 5.
That's cool.
Doing his thing over there.
Yeah.
And when I worked with him, he would just constantly tell me stories of what his experiences were like while he was in. And I don't know, just something sparked something in me where I felt like I wanted to be a part of that. And back in those days, I looked my recruiter's phone number up in a phone book.
Whoa.
Old man.
And I called him. Day later, I was in his office for the initial interview. I was in the delayed entry program for about 9 or 10 months.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
I was supposed to be in it for a year.
Jeez.
But I got my opportunity to go a lot earlier, and that's what I wanted to do. I needed a change. I needed something different, and I definitely wanted a challenge.
Wow.
Awesome. That's really cool because that's not the normal story, I feel like, for Marines.
No.
I feel like most Marines know in high school. They're
Yeah.
like, this is what I want to do. So it's cool that someone, that got out sparked your interest in service. Sergeant Hall, same question to you. How did you know you wanted to become a Marine? When did you make that decision?
So my decision, unlike Staff Sergeant Z, goes way back to when I was 8 years old. I was at a family member's house. I remember being down in the basement, talking to my cousin and my uncle. There's 2 pictures of him up on the wall. And at the time, he was a police officer as well. So you had his police academy graduation photo and then his Marine Corps boot camp, the iconic dress boot photo. And, when you're 8 years old, everyone looks different in those photos. And, and I asked him, I was like, who's that? And he's like, that's my dad. And there's just something about just that image. And I remember telling myself at 8 years old, I was like, I want to be a Marine and I want to be a police officer. I've not become a police officer, but, and just as life happened, kind of like Staff Sergeant Z, high school, very active in football. I like to think I was pretty good. My high school that I went into, we were one of the state powerhouses. I unfortunately got hurt senior year. And, without a senior year, there's no scouting, but going to school and playing football was still important to me. And funny story is I heard about an opportunity to get out of class for 3 hours. And I was like, yeah, cool, let's do that. And little did I know it was to take the ASVAB test. And,
they got you.
I did very well on it. And then, I just had all the recruiters hitting me up. And at that time, I thought the Marine Corps was the best opportunity for me. And I ended up joining my September 3rd, 2002, and just joined right out of high school. Had 2 weeks of summer and started my military career.
Wow,
Ooh,
what
that's
what a
awesome.
difference! So you have one gentleman who's in, they call it the pulley program, right? You're in the pulley program for almost a year, right?
Mhm.
And then he's gone for weeks. That's crazy. That's the difference, there alone. What were your guys' jobs in the Marine Corps? Where did you serve
So
at?
I guess I'll go first. Initially, I was it's an 0411 maintenance management specialist. I didn't really know that that's what I picked. I really just told I really just told my recruiter that I was done kind of doing like manual labor or get my hands dirty, because that's what I was doing, and I just, again, like I said, I wanted something different. Um, Found out when I was in Afghanistan, 2010, that that's not what I wanted to do anymore. And in fact, I did want to get my hands dirty, and I did want to do manual labor again. Um, and it's weird because when I took my ASVAB, my recruiter told me that I did very well in the mechanical portion.
Mhm.
And he was trying to drive me to be a mechanic because that's what I excelled at. But I told him, no, that's not what I wanted to do. So that's what I got hit with, was 0411 maintenance management specialist, which essentially is just logistics.
Mhm.
Um, as I said, when I was in Afghanistan, my view of that changed. I'll never forget, I was in my compound one morning, and I saw an MV-22 Osprey hovering over a compound next to us, and I saw a guy on the ramp manning a 50 caliber machine gun. And I didn't really know anything about aviation at all at that time. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know Marine Corps really had much of aviation at all to begin with.
Yep.
So a buddy of mine at the time was in the process of going down the road that we all go down. Do I stay in? Do I get out? Do I do something different?
Mhm.
And he was explaining to me what this whole aviation thing was, and sparked my interest. And it was my time to make that decision when I got back from Afghanistan, whether or not I wanted to stay in or get out. So I made the decision to do what's called a lateral move. Um, and this basically is the process of you changing your MOS from one MOS to another, provided you're obviously qualified. So that's when I made the decision to become an MV-22 Osprey crew chief. And that had then spurred into a couple of other things, where it was specifically with the unit that I was with in Quantico, Virginia, directly related to the President of the United States.
What'd you do there?
So at first, I flew on the green V-22 Ospreys that they have out there, in support or direct support. So we would fly cross country with auxiliary fuel tanks, whether it be overseas to Panama City or the UK. And we would just support the mission over there, whatever that was. But then I eventually got my top secret security clearance granted to me, and I was awarded the position of what's known as a Marine One crew chief, one of 8 Marines at one time.
Wow.
Fills that billet, and I was one to be selected to do that.
So you literally flew the President of the United States of America as an enlisted Marine in the Marine Corps.
That's correct.
What was that experience like?
Mind blowing and life changing. So the clip you're seeing here was actually in Italy. That was at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
I see you.
There he is.
But yeah, this was my very first experience doing that. It literally changed my life. And I would almost like to say it's the highlight of my career. I mean, you really can't beat that.
That's pretty cool.
But I have a lot more time to go, so who knows what's going to happen between now and then. But yes, I did get to do that several times. It was amazing. I wouldn't change it for the world. It has led to other experiences to where my wife and I were able to go to the White House Christmas party back in 2017. So she has met the president and the first lady as well.
That's so cool.
Wow.
So yeah, it's very, very unique, once in a lifetime. And unless you get selected, unless you are a specific MOS and have the ability to handle that kind of responsibility, nobody really knows about it or gets to do it.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. Sergeant Hall, what was your experience like in the Marine Corps? What was your job, and where did you serve at?
It's kind of hard to follow that one up, but
Sorry.
I guess I'll try. Kind of similar to Staff Sergeant Z's. I think I have the most, I guess you would say, typical experience. I joined as infantry. When I was sitting down with a local recruiter, it's what job do you want to do? What's important to you? And me at the time, I wanted to make a difference. And if I'm going to do it, I want to do it on the front line. So I joined what's called 03 Open. So I just went in the Marine Corps, knew I was going to be infantry, did my basic training, went to School of Infantry out in Camp Pendleton, San Diego. And about 2 weeks into it, I remember it was a Friday night. We're all getting ready to go out in downtown San Diego, and we had a formation. And that's when they told us what our MOSs were. And I got told, Paul, 0352. It's like, what is a 52? This is not 0311. I want to be a ground pounder. I want to be the guy up front. And come to learn, actually, 0352, it's a wire-guided missile system. So it's TOW missile system. So it's a wire-guided missile that's meant to hit armor or reinforced bunkers. Not what I wanted to do. Once again, I want to be the front guy. But I quickly learned that it was a hookup MOS in the true world, because you don't have to walk anywhere. You get to ride in Humvees.
Awesome.
It's a vehicle mounted missile. With my experiences in the Marine Corps, I was very proficient in that MOS. Never really used it. I started deploying as early as 2003 when I was only in the Marine Corps for 6 months. Ended up doing personal security details. My first deployment, my second deployment in 05, we were in Fallujah. Really just used that system for optics so we could see, certain different things. And it really, for my 4 years in the Marine Corps, I had a lot of great times doing my infantry work, essentially, which is what I did. That's the simple question for you, or the answer to your question. And then when I came to the Guard, I want to do something totally different. So once again, sitting with the Guard recruiter, kind of told you guys, he gave me the opportunity to pick whatever I wanted because of that ASVAB score of me skipping class that day. And I chose, I want to be a military policeman because, like I explained earlier, I had law enforcement aspirations. Then I ended up deploying to Afghanistan, ran a PSD detail for 15 months in Afghanistan, and, just kind of ran with that. Since then, I had some civilian federal contracting opportunities. And, one of the great things about the Guard is you can go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So from California, I decided I want to go back to Wisconsin. I miss Cousin Subs. I don't know if you guys had that.
We don't. It sounds phenomenal, though.
It is amazing. But then I got my foot in the door in recruiting because I just really wanted to help people out. So that was kind of my Guard transition.
That's so amazing. And for those of us that are listening that don't know what a PSD is, it's personal security detachment, right? Basically like almost a bodyguard of the military.
Correct. So Staff Sergeant Z's up in the air. I'm on the ground.
Very cool.
So Sergeant Hall, you already kind of mentioned your transition from the Marine Corps to the National Guard. Staff Sergeant Z, what was your transition like? Obviously, we know already that you got out of the Marine Corps, had a break in service, then joined the Guard. But did you know in the back of your head that service is something that you wanted to continue doing, or was it just kind of like an opportunity that was presented to you and you realized, hey, this is what I want to do?
So I was actually in the process of getting hired on out in Marion, Indiana, as my experience in the Marine Corps was definitely going to give me something on the outside as a maintenance manager for a bakery factory. I forgot what they're called. But yeah, they wanted to hire me on. I was in the process of getting hired on, went through the whole interview process. Believe had an offer letter, on its way to my house. But then I don't know, I had about 9 years in, and I had just got promoted to staff sergeant, and I knew that, I knew that I still wanted to wear the uniform, but I knew that my time in the Marine Corps had come to an end. Definitely one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I still kind of reflect on it every now and again, because, you can't really erase 9 years of your life, especially with what is beaten into us in a good way.
Fair.
Yeah. So I was actually applying to be a UH-60 helicopter repairer down in Shelbyville via USA Jobs. And I was just following up on my application, and I somehow called like an ops office or something like that. And they found out that I was in the Marine Corps about to transition. So it literally went from one person to another person to somebody who knew a guy who used to be a Marine to then a recruiter, which ended up being, as you guys know, Sergeant First Class Caldwell. We literally started the process of my transition while I was in the Philippines, getting ready to come home to then start my official transition out of the Marine Corps back in the fall or winter of 2017. So for me, I I really didn't even know what recruiting was. To be honest, I didn't know that National Guard even had recruiters, just because we always knew them as just they do the one weekend thing, and
Right.
how they get from point A to point B. At the time, I really didn't care.
Right.
Then once this whole recruiting thing kind of presented itself, and I understood that you still are in active duty status, you still get all the same benefits, your time still counts. Most, if not everything, from a prior service point in time transfers right over.
Mhm.
And I was immediately sold. I always knew I kind of had good, people skills and talking skills. So that was definitely not something I was going to have to just relearn or learn a new skill in that way. So I was definitely kind of thrown into the fire, or kind of fed to the wolves, as some people like to call it. But that was nothing new to me coming from the Marine Corps. It's kind of how they do things. But no, I would not change it for anything. I'm blessed and I'm thankful for the opportunity that I've been given. But it was a very, very hard transition.
Yeah, I believe that. Staff Sergeant Hall, or Sergeant First Class Hall, is there anything that you wanted to add about your transition from the Marine Corps to the National Guard, even though you kind of already touched on it, but I didn't know if there's any more info you'd like to give?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of similar to Staff Sergeant Z. Some people, you hear the good stories, you hear the bad stories. Me personally, I had a break in service. I got out of the Marine Corps just due to, kind of did my time. The grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And, kind of how I explained to you guys, everyone loves civilian world, and civilian world's great. You miss mom, dad, brother, sister, people you got waiting for you. But civilian world's not really what it's all cracked up to be, when you're told what to do for every minute of your life for 4 years, in my case, 9 years for Staff Sergeant Z's. And I learned very quickly, ooh, okay, I'm missing out on a little bit. And realistically, one of the things that hit me, that made me decide to transition back in, was I just miss the camaraderie. I miss the brotherhood, sisterhood, just everything, serving with people who have the same aspirations and goals as you. And just with the way life was going, I didn't want to do the active duty thing. And I heard about this National Guard thing, went online, nationalguard.com, and, found myself talking to a recruiter. And that process was super easy. I think 7 days later, I was at MEPS down in San Diego. And yeah, like I said, they let me pick my job. So my transition was easy. I think I have a Cinderella story. You guys as recruiters would know, for prior service people, sometimes it can be challenging. But once again, that's why my program has been integrated, to make it easier for people.
That's awesome.
What are so you mentioned that you mentioned the camaraderie. What are some of the similarities you see between the Marine Corps and the Army National Guard, and what are some of the differences you see as well?
As the broad spectrum, everybody just has the same passion, I think, to really make a difference. When I brief Marines, I tell them, at least 4 years ago, Marines, when you guys raised your hand at MEPS, and you took that oath, you all wanted to help people, save people, make a difference. Yes. And I get, the auditory hoorah, grunt, yeah.
Kill.
And then, I just kind of tell them, well, you're getting on the Marine Corps, and what the National Guard does is, emergency relief, natural disaster, civil unrest operations, and we see it right now in our country. And I say, if you still have that will to make that difference, why not join the National Guard? So I think just as a broad spectrum, that's a similarity. And then the other one is internally, there is a lot of prior service Marines in the Marine Corps.
We are the retirement home for the Marine Corps. I hear the National Guard is the retirement home for the United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Zillapougas, what are some of the similarities you see between the Marine Corps and the Army National Guard? And then what are some of the differences you've seen from your services in both components?
I'll do similarities first. If there are any two branches that are similar, I'm not going to say alike, I'm just going to say similar. It would be the Army and the Marine Corps, at least in my opinion. Rank structure is fairly similar. I'm going to say some customs and courtesy things are definitely a lot different. But similarities, an 11 Bravo infantryman is the same thing as an 0311 grunt in the Marine Corps. As a matter of fact, I did a little bit of research, and not long ago, there was a 11 Bravo instructor that went and taught 0311 Marines in Camp Pendleton, and there was an 0311 combat instructor that went and taught 11 Bravo infantrymen in the Army. I think it was in like Fort Benning or something like that. And to be honest with you, they kind of enjoyed it, because as similar as their tactics are, Obviously, the experience of one guy in a different service versus another guy in another service brought to the table. It immediately they integrated themselves, and it almost felt at home, even for the experienced combat instructors that were basically trading sides. They even said themselves that some of the feel and the general just kind of environment are very similar. Now, differences. I will say, Marines definitely hold themselves to a very high, standard when it comes to pride, respect. Like I said earlier, customs and courtesies, just like the really little things and attention to detail. There's definitely some huge differences. When it comes, even just down to the uniform, Marines take a lot of pride in their uniform. And
you look great in yours.
You look phenomenal.
Oh, thanks.
No problem.
So those are definitely some of the things that I've noticed. But more of what I was trying to get at when it comes to MOSs, they're very similar. The Marine Corps has water dogs. We have water purification specialists. You need comm. You need guys to lay and run wire. You need guys to bust down doors. And I'm sorry, but they got to do the thing over in the place. And both Marine Corps and Army have that. And even furthermore, it breaks down just like the Marine Corps does. You have infantry, you have mortarmen, you have a combat engineer. And again, it's the exact same in the Marine Corps. Obviously, the Army has medical, Marine Corps does not. So there are some very finite and minute differences, but there are also some very large similarities at the same time. And I think that helped me make my transition as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that having that similarity gives you some comfort whenever you come to the Guard, because you kind of know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, there's that baseline you have.
Yeah, exactly. Sergeant Hall, you kind of already talked about a little bit what you did when you came into the Guard, but now you're a Marine to Guard recruiter. Can you give us a brief, just a brief overview of what the Marine to Guard program is and where you see yourself going in the future?
Okay. So the Marine to Guard program, it is a program that was initiated on behalf of the Marine Corps. Actually came to the Army National Guard and said, hey, we have 20,000 Marines that get out a year. We can only retain 4,000. So that 16,000 of them, in civilian world, some of them make it. Unfortunately, some of them don't. What can you guys do to help? We hear you have this awesome thing on the active Army side. What can you do? And the founder of the program, out at NGB, they put their heads together and they created Marine to Guard program. So what it is we are a program specifically for active duty Marines getting off active duty. There's myself and 2 other career counselors on the West Coast. We are in charge of all 5 West Coast bases, including Hawaii and Okinawa. And we have 5 counselors on the East Coast covering Lejeune, Cherry Point, all those bases. And when Marines are getting out, they're going through their transition seminar. So it's 5 days of things, set them up for civilian world, resume, interviewing skills, don't swear, every other world, civilian life doesn't like that. And then we get the opportunity to just kind of share our stories like we're doing right now via this podcast, but on a broader spectrum, 250 Marines at a time. Hey, Marines, this is my story. This is what I did. That door doesn't have to close for future service. There's a lot of opportunities for you. It's not a hard sale. We're career counselors. We're not recruiters. And it's just like, hey, come on by our office. What's your plan? And it's really just us figuring out what they want to do with their life and if the Guard fit, because we represent all 54 states and territories. And it's been extremely overwhelming in a good way on the success of the program. We've put in over 230 people so far this year.
That's crazy.
In FY last year, when I literally showed up to Camp Pendleton, I showed up to an office with 2 desks and 2 chairs. And we were able to transition 150 Marines last year. So
that's wild. That's so cool.
Yeah. And it's just been absolutely awesome. Briefed over 15,000 Marines.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many of those have come to Indiana?
Per my tracker that I looked at this morning, we have sent 3 high quality NCOs to Indiana.
There we go.
That's awesome.
That's what we need here.
In this program, you're just there to essentially help that transition from the United States Marine Corps to the United States Army National Guard and just kind of be there to facilitate that. Is that right?
Correct. It's such a seamless process, kind of like what we've joked about. It's when you get out of the Marine Corps or any branch for that matter, and you have a break in service, you got to go see guys like you. And then you got to go through maps and you got to do the duck walk. A Marine can literally walk into my office and say, "Hey, I heard about you guys. I've seen this YouTube commercial. What's going on?" And we can do everything from start to finish in 90 minutes.
Wow.
That's awesome. No MEPS,
No mats,
no
no nothing. We
Riaz.
literally call your guys' estate. We call your ISD coordinator, find them a job, sit down and do about a half hour's worth of paperwork with them. We have a chief warrant officer
Wow.
that sign our program, and we swear them in right there in the office. And they continue to serve their time in the Marine Corps until their EAS, and their contract starts 2 days later with their state's National Guard.
That's so
That's
cool.
phenomenal. So they literally, it's very similar to an IST or an interstate transfer in the
Correct.
fact that they just do it 30 minutes paperwork and then they just had that seamless transition. That's amazing. That's really amazing. This is kind of a two-part question then. So Staff Sergeant Zalpugas, if you're talking to a high school student that just recently graduated and they aren't sure about what they want to do in their future, what advice would you give to them? And then Staff Sergeant Hall, Sergeant First Class Hall, same question for you as far as, a Marine that's thinking about getting out. What would you tell them about the Army National Guard's features and benefits?
So I'll just say that I am not the kind of guy that, if somebody knows that they want to join the Guard, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Let's get the paperwork started. Let's start the process. Let's go. But if I can just sense that somebody's kind of on the fence of, they don't exactly know what they want to do, or that maybe the Guard just might not be for them, since I have been active duty before. And not only that, since I've served amongst, all the other branches and been on different bases and trained with different branches and different MOSs, I like to say that I have a decent amount of experience and some perspective to show them, to maybe hopefully guide them. Hey, maybe active duty is your thing. If you aren't wanting to go active duty, or are you at least wanting to go to college? Because that's the biggest thing about that's one of the biggest things about the National Guard is that you can be in college full time. You can serve in the National Guard at the same time. You can get all the benefits of serving in the National Guard to provide you a way to pay for college or get through college. But if, maybe college isn't their thing, I will definitely talk about being active duty and what the active duty life is like. Although being in the National Guard definitely is a, lifestyle, active duty definitely takes that, 5 or 10 steps further, because it is something that you do every single day. You do put on the uniform every single morning, maybe 7 mornings. Maybe you're doing it 12, 14 hours a day some days. But, it's simply finding what drives them, and it's simply finding what motivates them. And I try to steer them in what direction is simply best for them.
That's so amazing.
And what's really cool about your guys' pasts is you've spent time on active duty in the Marine Corps, so you have an intimate knowledge of the Navy as well, I would imagine. And now you're in the Army National Guard. You can speak on 3 branches with the applicant that they don't have to go to the Marine Corps recruiter or the Navy recruiter to get that information. You guys can give them that information right then, right there, and help guide them to what could be their best opportunity.
First-hand knowledge.
That is correct. If there's definitely something that is outside of my wheelhouse, then I will give them the name and the number to the recruiter that I work with at one of my schools. If it's a individual from that school, I just simply try to do what's best for the applicant or candidate. And again, if this isn't the path that they want to take, I'll try to at least guide them onto what path that might be or what that might look for them.
That's so amazing. Thank you so much for that. First Class Hall, similar question. What do you tell a Marine that might be getting out, EASing as you guys call it? What do you tell them about the Army National Guard and what benefits may be available to them through our program?
Okay. I mean, like I said, we give a brief. Part of our, just bulleted, hey, what are you guys looking for? We're not there to give them a 45-minute long drawn out, appointment similar to what we do as recruiters. It's just very structured. It's like, hey, you got schooling benefits, you got some civilian education, you got career transition, kind of like Staff Sergeant Z. You go from aviation to aviation because the National Guard is going to give you skills that can, directly convert over into the civilian world. Insurance is huge.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of first termers in the military end up creating families. And for these guys, we get a lot of them. I'll ask them straight up, why are you here? Why are you in my office? Because I can only assume, but kind of like what Staff Sergeant Z said, it's finding out their motivators. Why are you here, man? Is it because I got good hair, or you want a bonus? What's going on? And
I do the same thing.
So a lot of hair. A lot of them that have families, they say this insurance it's clutch, because active duty, it's free. National Guard, $287, whatever the TRICARE is right now. You're not going to find that on the civilian world. And so
No.
those guys kind of look at it as, yeah, let me serve 2 days a month to get that insurance that I'm not going to get at any other civilian employer. So insurance is one of the huge benefits. There is the prior service bonus. But we really just sit them down and say, what do you want to do? Why are you here? And like I kind of told you guys earlier, is 90% of them say, I love being a Marine, because like Staff Sergeant Z says, we have a lot of pride in our heart for being a Marine. But a lot of them, they want to go back to their family. They want to go back to their friends, but they still want to serve. And for some people, just doing it 2 days a month, that's giving back. Because like I said, 4 years ago, at least, when they all swore that oath and raised the right hand, they still want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And Sergeant First Class Hall, is there a phone number that if someone wants to reach you about the Marine to Guard program, how do they get out in contact with you?
So people can go to nationalguard.com/M2G, or they can text 462-769. If you text M2G to that number, you're going to get automatic blast back. We do have a dedicated phone line to the program. I do not know that iPhone number.
It's okay.
But, we have an email box set up between me and my office partner. We field all the emails, and it's kind of like with the recruiting, people don't know what they don't know. And as Staff Sergeant Z said, we are very different. And, a lot of Marines, when they're done, they're just amazed. And people are like, oh my God, I had no idea the National Guard had this many opportunities. And some of them are like, I should have did this 4 years ago. And then I kind of joke with them, like, because just like Staff Sergeant Z said, like you all join, everything happens for a reason. You get experiences, and a lot of the Marines come over and just end up being extremely great NCOs and additions to whatever state's organization because of that skill set that they had in the Marine Corps. Because there are 60 MOSs that directly convert over to the Guard.
Yep.
That's so awesome. And Staff Sergeant Zalpukas, if someone wants to get a hold of you, reference information on the Army National Guard, how do they call you?
They can call me, text me, whatever they want to do. My number is 317-331-3839. That's 317-331-3839.
Is there any other things you guys want to add to this?
I think for the Marine Guard program, it's very important that people understand this program is for active duty serving Marines. My job is to be the bridge in the transition between active duty and going back to Indiana, whatever state you're going back to. If you have more than a 1 day break in service, they need to call you guys.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And something else that's super cool that I just want people to know about is we do have a special forces pipeline that we've been able to implement as well too, to where while serving on active duty, we get guys to selection. So SFAS and even airborne while on active duty. So when they EAS from the Marine Corps, they join whatever 19th or 20th Special Forces detachment, and they just go right on deck to go to Q Force.
That's
so
amazing.
That's awesome.
You're in a half-line pipeline that a lot of them go through beforehand. It's already been done while you're serving in the Marine Corps.
That's
so
really
that's
cool.
been
I didn't
something
know
that's
that.
been huge. Yeah, it's something that started about 6 months ago, and we've actually been able to have 12 Green Beret sessions so far.
Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Staff Sergeant Zalpukas, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. I really enjoy talking to anybody prior service. Obviously it's always a pleasure talking to a prior service Marine. But I think my biggest thing that I like to at least offer is the fact that, maybe a decision was made for them when they entered the service. Maybe they didn't get what they wanted, or they didn't go to a specific, area, or just something didn't work out for them when they initially entered the service. With us, especially since they're prior service, and provided that they're, still qualified and everything, they can pretty much choose everything that they want to do. If they want a specific MOS, if they want to retake the ASVAB, if they want to go to a specific unit, we have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I, talk to these guys and gals, that is very attractive, because they're very used to, especially on active duty, having someone tell them, what they're going to be doing every second of every day,
Right.
pretty much. Now they're like, wait, so I have the flexibility of kind of choosing what I want to do
I
now?
can make a decision.
Is this real life?
Is this still the military? And that's definitely something that attracts people to the National Guard, is the fact that, again, provided they're qualified, they can
Right.
pretty much do whatever they want to do.
That's so incredible. Sergeant First Class Joshua Hall, the Marine to Guard recruiter, Staff Sergeant Lee Zelapugas, recruiting retention NCO. Thank you so much for coming on our show today. The Not Your Average Joes, Not Your Average Joes Marine to Guard edition. Join us next time as we interview Command Sergeant Major TJ Martin. He's the Command Sergeant Major of the Indiana Army National Guard Recruiting and Retention Battalion. We're going to debunk some common guard myths and talk about all those. Until next time, thank you so much for everyone listening to us today.
Thanks, gents.
Thank you.